When I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, and I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put aside childish things. Hi, I'm James, and this is my take on reality. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Cinderella effect and how it affected two of the 90 Day Fiance cast members from Single Life, and how it is tearing down and creating a circumstance where they won't be able to find the love they want. Now, before we get started, I would ask that if you are getting anything from the channel, that you consider subscribing. It's easy to do. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button down below. It helps the channel out. It helps me out. And hey, who doesn't want to help a brother out? So hit that HBO special down below. I'd appreciate it. Also, leave your take. Let me know what you think, especially on this topic, because we're going to get it. All right. Now, before we get started, we have to talk about what the Cinderella effect is. What the Cinderella effect is typically used to describe, or a phrase or term used to describe, women's unrealistic expectation when it comes to dating. I think that very phrase could also be reflective of men's approach and unrealistic expectation when it comes to some dating circumstances. Now, we'll start with the easy one and the traditional one. With Natalie, she has an unrealistic expectation when it comes to dating. She's approaching Josh as though he's this knight in shining armor, this prince who's going to come down from a faraway land to alleviate all her problems. He's going to take away all her issues. He's a good-looking guy who has money. He has money, so he's a good-looking guy. That's kind of where Natalie falls at. If you notice that every time she has a problem with him, she'll meet with him, she'll talk with him, he'll pick her up in something normal, or he'll meet her somewhere and then she has all kinds of issues and problems with him. But as soon as he pulls up in a newer car, usually rented, all of a sudden, he's the most beautiful, wonderfulest man, and we have to build a life together, and you are going to be my husband, and all that. So a lot of what it comes down to is, in the Cinderella term, what it refers to is the Prince Charming effect, where Prince Charming is basically a guy who's going to take beautiful Cinderella, who basically the only thing really Cinderella brings to the table in the Cinderella story is the fact that she's very attractive and she is a very nice person. Other than that, we really don't get to know why Cinderella is deserving of moving up in life in the socioeconomic class of where she is, other than the fact that she's attractive. And therefore, because she's attractive, she somehow deserves it. If you listen to the way Natalie talks, everything that she refers to is how she looks. So when she talks about Josh coming to meet her, it's about, oh, well, I hope he likes how I look. Oh, I am a beautiful woman. I'm very beautiful, and he'll be happy to be with me. Like, forget the fact that you're attractive. Is he attracted to you? Are you the type of person that he wants to be with? Are you the missing link that transverses that bridge or crosses that gap that he set for himself? So when she talks to even when she talked to the ex-wife, it came down to, I guess I'm not the type of woman that Josh typically would date. And the ex-wife hit her with no, usually the girls he gets are younger and more, have a different look. But what I get from that is, typically Josh will date women that he meets at these things, and he typically goes for young girls because they're the ones that he can more easily try to manipulate and fool, using his little power lever. Somebody, older woman, or person with a little more experience, a person with a little more wisdom will ask the next question. And Josh, being in the situation that he's in, doesn't want women asking the next question. Like, oh, you're saying that you can help me get into the movie industry, or you can help me get onto Fashion Week stages. How are you going to do that? That's the next question. How is that going to work? Who do I have to meet? When do I talk to them? Those next questions are questions that Josh tries to avoid. So he just fills them full of like a lot of fluff and a lot of circumstance. So you rent a car, you rent a house, you have them stay in those nice places, driving those nice cars, and it gives the illusion of success. It gives the illusion of the Prince Charming. And therefore, it creates a circumstance where her expectations for this gentleman become unrealistic. On the flip side of that, when we look at Caesar, he too suffers from the Cinderella effect, just on the other end. He thinks that he's Prince Charming. If you look at the story of Cinderella and how Prince Charming actually worked out, all it was Prince Charming was a lonely-ass dude who lived in a castle, and by circumstance, his mom just happened to be the queen and the son of the king and all that. But at the end of the day, he was a guy with no prospects and no possibility of getting married and find somebody for himself. He was so lonely, in fact, that the mom had to arrange a dance so that he could find people, even though he's good looking and wealthy. He then arranges the dance. He sees this girl. Ooh, she looks fine. Look at them shoes. She's setting it on fire. He go over, he talked to her for a little bit. They share a dance. Then all of a sudden she has to leave. Midnight hit. I guess he assumes that the booze wore off and she takes off running. She leaves her shoe. And when you really look at the story, the only thing that he has to figure out who the woman he met and fell in love with is a shoe. My man has a deep foot fetish. That's crazy. Like, you can't even look at a woman in the face like, oh yeah, you were the lady I was talking to yesterday. You so fine. You so good looking. Nope. He got to see what her feet look like inside that glass slipper. So ultimately, what it comes down to is the love story behind Cinderella is just basically Cinderella fell in love with a guy because he has money and he's going to alleviate or give her a happily ever after by giving her a certain lifestyle. The guy fell in love with this woman based on how she looked and the fact that she could fit into a particular shoe or a particular clothing item. In Caesar's case, when he first came to the trying to meet a Ukrainian woman and we first started following him in 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days, this guy had went out and bought the young lady he wanted to talk to a pair of chocolate underwear in order for him to try to romance her, because to him, that's romantic. But the secret to the sauce, and I would say this to anybody, all romance isn't sexual, just like everything sexual isn't romantic. You can have a romantic evening without ever touching or coming in physical contact with each other, but it's a romantic evening because of the setting and or because of the person that you're actually with. These are the things that Caesar's missing. You don't have to take her out to $1,000 a plate dinner for it to be romantic. A woman might fall in love with you not because you can afford $1,000 a plate dinner, but because you get a cheap bottle of wine, you make a pot of spaghetti, you get a blanket, and you guys go sit under and dine under the stars in a park somewhere, or just, having that conversation and that connection, because that's what romance is. Romance is a feeling. It's not, you can't buy romance. And that's where Caesar kind of is making a mistake. He's taking a role of what he thinks to be is a Prince Charming situation, where he can buy the type of woman that he wants to be with. When it comes down to it, he's not looking for a soulmate. He's not looking for somebody who fits into his life and his circumstances. What he's looking for is somebody to fit into a pair of dessert drawers. When he met with the three young ladies, he went for the one that he thought was most physically fit and has the best body because she is more likely to be able to fit into the garment that he brought. And that's all it came down to. Like, it wasn't an issue of Caesar can't find somebody that he can be happy with and, oh, the world is so evil and so wretched that this guy can't find somebody to be with. The situation is this. Caesar hasn't positioned himself in a way that he can attract the type of women that he says that he wants. And that becomes a bigger issue, as I've been addressing in a lot of these videos, is that Caesar his actions aren't commiserate with the things that he says. His actions are equal to what he's talking about. You say you want a nice girl. You say you want somebody that you can be in love with. You say you want somebody who you can connect with and have those romantic moments with. You can't have romantic moments with, and you can't connect to people that you can't even have a conversation with. All you can do is sit there and stare at each other. So all that comes down to is you're in love with how she looks. That in and of itself, the idea of the Prince Charming, that you have so much money and it makes you a high value man. That's something that's kicked around on the internet in the red pill community and the manosphere and all that you hear Cody and them talk about. Is the idea that if you have enough money, you can choose the type of woman that you want to be with. And the type of woman that you want to be with has to meet a certain caliber or a certain level. So you're going to pick the Cinderella, the hottest woman in the town or the village. Because you deserve it, because you're a high value man and all the women in town want you. So therefore you get your pick of the litter. But the truth of the matter is that when you indulge into that fantasy, it becomes unrealistic, because even though you have enough money, you have enough zeros behind your name, and you live in the right zip code and you sitting in the right foreign, what you don't have is the loyalty that you think that you have. It's all an illusion. You think that these women are in love with you because you have money. No, they love the opportunity and they love the money that they provide, that it provides. But like most job interviews, you're always looking for a better opportunity. So if they're in a situation where they meet your boss or they meet the guy who has more money than you, a bigger house than you, or more cars than you, then they are gone because that person presents a better opportunity. When you deal with these type of transactional relationships, that's where the Cinderella effect typically comes in. I mean, you also have the idea that somebody is coming in and saving you from a situation or circumstances beyond your control. And in many cases, the situation that you find yourself in, especially when you're Natalie or Caesar, are situations that you yourself have created and you yourself have added to because of the way that you approach the dating market and the sexual marketplace. I'm not saying that you can't have the things that you want out of life. I'm not saying that you can't have somebody who's attractive. You can't have somebody who has a good status of living if that's who you meet and who you talk to and who you connect with. All those things are very possible. But what I am saying is that when you walk into it with the unrealistic expectation that solely because you are good looking or solely because you can provide financial opportunity, that somehow you deserve to have the people that you want. Natalie feels she deserves Josh, and this is the life she deserves because she's suffered so much. She's like Cinderella with the evil stepsisters and the stepmother. That now because she suffered under that tutelage, she somehow deserves to have a better life, and she deserves to live a life of the rich and famous. The same thing with Caesar because he was used and abused by a young lady, and he tells that story to everybody he meets. Stop telling that damn story, especially the women that you trying to talk to. Don't no woman want to be with a guy who got played by another woman and he's sitting there carrying that around. Like that's even I'm like, oh, what are you doing? It's so cringy. Like it's so ridiculous. Like, it never works. So stop telling that story because at the end of the day, bro, in case you've never had a big brother, you never had a dad, you never had a man in your life tell you, then don't nobody want to feel sorry for no man. Ain't nobody sitting around here crying a river for you, bro. Like, you don't deserve to have a beautiful woman because you think you deserve to have a beautiful woman and you're a nice guy. Being nice has nothing to do with it. If you connect with somebody and whether you're attractive or you're not, then you are connected to that person and you have that opportunity to date them. If you have all the money in the world, all Caesar is going to do at the end of the day is he's going to bring Alona here to America and she's going to wind up dating somebody here. My advice to Natalie and Caesar, put aside childish things. Thinking that you're Cinderella or Prince Charming is a childish approach to life, and especially a childish approach to the sexual marketplace that you're entering into. I'm James. This is my take on reality, and I'm out. 'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die.